Hey y'all, it's me, your favorite pimp, Ty. So please make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Tonight's lesson is all about project management and information technology, also known as IT. Let's get into it. All right, y'all. So, our guest for today is Mrs. Wendy Harris. She is the former CIO, Chief Information Officer for the City of Memphis, and she currently is the VP of Service Delivery for IT consulting firm. Hey, Wendy.
Hey, Ty.
How you
Great to be
doing?
here.
Thank you for coming. Tell us all about yourself. I'm so excited for you to be here.
I'm excited too, Ty. You know, you're one of my favorite girls. So a little bit about myself. As you mentioned, I'm the former CIO for the city of Memphis. A little bit about my journey. I started in IT back in 2009. Most of my IT career has been at the city of Memphis. Um, Started out as a project coordinator, have worked in several roles within project management, from operations manager, director of the project management office, DCIO, and then chief information officer. So I've had a long technical journey within the city of Memphis, as well as doing a lot for STEM around the city, and a part of some organizations, the Society of Information Management. Gosh, I can't think of them all. Uh, Women in Tech, one of
Yes.
the founding members of Tech last year with the Greater Memphis IT Council, so really excited about that. I published a few articles in GovCIO just about the lean journey and smart cities. So I've done a lot in IT around the city, and just excited to talk to you about project management, emerging technologies, and just wherever you want to go with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're also one of my favorite girls in the world, because Wendy, we spent a lot of time together, like what, almost 2 years together,
Yeah,
working on a
yeah.
project for the city of Memphis. It was so wonderful to come in as a consultant, right? And be welcomed with open arms and just have my perspective listened to, and for you to always hop in from that standpoint of an executive stakeholder. So, you know that this podcast is all about lessons learned. So, I kind of want to just talk about your journey. I know you have your PMP certification. So, how did
hmm
what was your journey to get that PMP certification, and what are some lessons learned that you can share?
Well, I'll tell you that a story that I've told multiple times.
Okay.
I started out as a project coordinator, so I changed careers, right? And so I'm like, okay, I'm pretty good at this. So what's the next step? And so I said, okay, I need to get this. I need to get my PMP.
Okay.
And so Ty, I decided. Um, I found out I was pregnant, and I'm like, if I don't get this PMP now, I am never going to get it. And
Yes.
so I think I found out like in February of 2011. And so then I just buckled down and studied and studied and studied on my own, and got it before my daughter came
Okay.
in November. So I took the test in August. So I spent about 8 months just really digging in, trying to learn and taking the test.
Yeah. So from that journey, because I can only imagine being pregnant and then trying to study, because I know the brain fog that takes place when you are having a
Yeah.
baby. But what are some of the lessons learned that you can share with our audience from your journey to get that PMP?
Lessons learned. So I'd say don't procrastinate.
Mm,
Um, One of the lessons learned too was don't try to um, use a plethora of study materials,
yes.
right? Do some research. Do some research and find someone who's been successful with a certain author. And so that's what I did. I
Yes.
found, I think her name, and she's passed, Rita Mulcahy,
Yes.
what's her name.
Yep.
And so, are you familiar with her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, somebody told me I passed studying her material, so that's what I did. So I didn't study anybody else's. I didn't combine. I just uh, used her book and also Ty mobile app.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the misconceptions is people think that you can just study a little bit and take the test. Well, a lesson learned is because I started a year before, right? Just here and there, picking up the book, it doesn't work. You have to eat, live, and breathe
Yeah.
PMP.
Yep.
And so in the car, I was on my mobile phone. I was constantly doing brain dumps. The brain dump, people don't think
Yes.
the brain dump is important.
So
It is.
important.
You remember the brain dump, right?
Yes.
So every when I thought I was ready, I spent a month brain dumping
Mm-hmm.
every night.
Yep.
And so one of the lessons learned, or I'll just say misconceptions, is that it's like any other test, and it's not. It's a serious test, but if you make up in your mind that you want to do it,
Yeah.
just know that that's the only thing you can really focus on,
Yeah. I
and that's
agree.
what I did 24/7.
Yeah. And I also like to think of it like as an investment in my career because a lot of people, they think about the money that goes into the preparation for it. So you have to take the class to get the credit hours, you have to buy your study materials, you have to pay for the exam, things like that. But I try to explain to people like it's an investment into your career and moving you forward. How do you feel about that?
So Ty, um, I 100% agree. There are things, and I took the test in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that have stayed with me. I use the same tools and technologies that I learned studying for the PMP. And I'll tell you one of the most important ones
Yeah.
that I say multiple times. Right, I learned how to know where you are.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
as long see, as long as I know where I am in the process, whatever it is as it relates to project management,
Yes.
you can deliver or you can risk mitigate whatever it is at that moment.
Right.
Knowing where you are, you have to stay there and focus there, and then things kind of come easily. So the communication and the documentation, right? Those were two of the major things that I learned as I was studying for the PMP, and those to me, since I learned communication and documentation are the first two priorities for project management, and it's
Mm.
never changed. It's
Mm.
never changed since I took the test.
Yeah.
It's still the same, and so. I certainly appreciate all of the new stuff and the new ideas and the new tests and the new ways of doing things. But I'll tell you this: I'm traditional. I'm
Yep.
an old school girl, and I have stuck to my roots
Uh-huh.
as far as I'm concerned with the PMP, and it's worked for me.
Okay.
So
I love
yeah.
it. So I'm gonna call it out again. You said brain dumping. You said communication.
Uh-huh.
You said risk. What was the other one? Did I miss any that I as far as what you said?
Documentation,
Oh yes,
documentation.
documentation. Yes. So with that and having all of these tools, having the methodology that you used, let's talk about a project and how you've taken what you've used and or what you've learned and applied it to a project that you were running.
So when I mentioned documentation and
Mm-hmm.
communication, so what I've learned is that no project is going to go live on time. Okay, and I've accepted that. Um, and that's a hard pill for some people to swallow. But and not to say it's going to be a year long or 2 years past, right?
Yeah.
But it's not going to hit that actual date. I don't care if it's a week later or 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I've learned with major, especially transformational projects,
Mm-hmm.
right, is how to be resilient. But also that communication and documentation, whether it's good or it's bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? You need to tell somebody. You
Yeah.
need to say it, right? So as I've managed project managed and business analysts over the years, and they say, well, this has happened and this happened, or she did that, or I don't know. Did you
Document
did you document it? Is it written? Because if you just said it, it doesn't mean
it.
anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I've learned just to just to be aware, be prepared. Look at the bigger picture
Mm-hmm.
as far as what's the end goal, and and being um, it sounds corny, but being true to yourself, right?
Mm.
I know that this project is probably going to take a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to communicate that with confidence, right? And that all goes back to also knowing your audience. You got to know who to tell, when to tell.
Yep.
You don't tell everybody like Ty. You and I had some late night conversations, right?
Yes.
When things weren't going right,
Right.
but you knew when to come to me
Right.
to hopefully get a little guidance because I was more familiar with the business, and the way we did things.
Right.
And I know I just said a lot, so I hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
Um,
You definitely did. And as an executive stakeholder, right? Because you transition from actually, like you said, running projects, coordinating projects, and things like that, all the way up to being the CIO and actually sponsoring those projects and holding the purse strings, right? So,
yeah,
as that leader and having this on the ground, on the those boots on the ground type experience, how did you
mhm.
take all of that and translate it over and become the great executive sponsor that I know that you were? How did you take that and translate
Yeah.
it over?
So you know what? With that project management background,
Mm-hmm.
Ty, and the things that we learned, everything's a project, right? And so, um, and not necessarily initiation, monitoring, control, all that kind of stuff in closing. Not all of those steps. But when I mentioned knowing where you are,
Yep.
right? And so, as a becoming chief information officer, right, there are decisions that I had to make. Um, and I mentioned looking at the big
Big picture.
picture. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you're PMing, right, you know what the end goal is.
Mm-hmm.
You know we're here, and you know that okay, we got issues now, but I got to get there.
Yeah.
So that foundation for me, it made me a better listener.
Mm.
Going through project management and being a project manager, you are managing people and tasks,
Mm-hmm.
right? So and you're in the room with people that know things that you don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can't, as a PM start out or a coordinator, I can't tell a developer, no, you didn't do that right. You know
Right.
what I mean? So developing those listening skills, that time management, um, um, the execution of things,
Ooh.
the follow through.
Yeah.
As a project manager, you can't leave things. You have to get things done.
Yeah.
And so I'll say that I am thankful for my project management foundation again because I use it um, personally and professionally.
Yeah. Definitely. I love it. So, leadership. Let's talk about leadership because I definitely feel like as a leader, you had some great qualities. What is your definition of leadership?
My definition of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I know the kind of leader that I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a little different from definition of leadership. So
Okay.
I think Ty, honestly, how I mentioned listening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, leadership is being able to sit in a room with people that are giving information, digesting it, um, and and I'll just segue into the adaptive leader that I am, right?
Okay.
So for me, being if that's okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, I don't want to get off
No, you
the
good.
question of leader. Said it. I'm um, being able to see the big picture, right? And
Yeah.
so all leaders can't do that, right? But also allowing people as part of adaptive leadership is to give them the tools that they need and let them go, right?
Yes.
Knowing how to step aside, knowing not micromanaging.
Mhm.
But Ty, is also important for leaders to give direction at the beginning, because what I've learned is that you can say, well, why did you do it that way, or this or that? You do
Yeah.
have to allow express themselves and use their knowledge, but you also have to tell people what you want,
Yes.
right? And let them work it the way they work it. But the
Mhm.
end goal still needs to be acceptable, to move forward.
Right. Right. Have that good quality at the end. And I
Yeah.
yeah, I love adaptive leadership, right? Cuz it's at the core to me it's like you have whatever your core is. So like for me at my core I'm a servant leader and I like to kind of empower people and I like to lead from behind. Like me being up front is really not um, what I want to do, right? I want our end goal to be great. I want our qualities and our output to be great. But sometimes I have to put on my Wendy Harris hat, right? Because Wendy Harris don't take that. I won't say it. So sometimes I had to, and I remember like doing the project, I had to be like, okay, like this is what we're going to do. And then, and then I dial it back.
Yeah.
But, you have to be adaptive to the situation. You have to be adaptive to the people. You have to be adaptive to the environment that you're in, even as a consultant, right? So, as a consultant, talk about how you adapt to your environments right now with your current position.
Uh, so Ty, it's really just knowing your customer, right?
Mm,
It so both in public and the private
yeah.
sector, right? Whether it's a small government or a large government, whether it has a city council or a commission or just a board, or knowing when budget season is. So you you have to make your clients ready, you
Mm,
know, for the change that's coming. And so um, I'm able to adapt to it because I know it's important to understand who I'm working with.
mm-hmm.
So there's a misconception that people are excited about doing projects, outside of the other operational work that they have to do. That is a misconception. They don't
Yes.
want to do it.
It's a lie.
Although they don't want to do it, although they know it's great, it's work time. It
Yeah.
takes work,
Yep.
and so you have to be empathetic to what to your position. You
Mm-hmm.
are coming in to direct people to do some stuff
Mm-hmm.
and spend more time on stuff that they don't normally do,
Yeah.
right? You're asking people to think outside of the box. That sometimes normally just do A, B, and C when they come to the office, and they're not trying to think about business processes and how they do this and how they do that. So knowing that you're in a position where you have to pull some things out of people because they don't normally think about these types of things every
Mm-hmm.
day. When you're transforming them from one type of software to another, or no software, or when you're taking somebody from a spreadsheet, to
Yep.
clicks of buttons, and so I have been a customer,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and because I've been a customer, um, I understand my customers,
Yes.
and I understand um, the the journey that they're on, and the issues that will arise, and the risk, and the hesitation, and what is it, Ty?
The resistance that
The
you're gonna get.
this
Yes. Oh my
yeah.
God.
So I know it's coming, and it's important that clients see genuineness from you,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that you understand the position that they're in, and you're there to help them along the way
Yeah.
and hold their hand if it's there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that like winds right back up to being that adaptive leader, right? And some servant leadership right in there as well, where you are being
Yeah.
empathetic, not only empathetic but sympathetic. I remember like when I first started on my journey in IT, like after undergrad, just trying as best as I could to put myself in someone else's shoes, right? Because everything that I've done as far as my career has always been there was no system. And they were telling me, well, little girl, this is the way we've always done this. So we don't need you to come in here to tell us that we need to do this any other way. So that's the way I kind of
Mhm.
got my way in. Is like, okay, well, I understand, and maybe you can
Yeah.
teach me how you're doing it right now, and maybe I can teach
Mhm.
you how to do it better with this system. So I know that we definitely went through a lot of that with the city of Memphis. So again, just talk about like how you communicate with a difficult end user or difficulties on a project.
So I think with difficult end users,
Mm-hmm.
what catches people. Somebody who's just being difficult just to be difficult, or just not necessarily just to be difficult, but doesn't really understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ty, the question why when you have a conversation and you say, well, why do you do it that way? And they say, well, because we've always done it that way. Why?
Right.
Well, because but what if, or wouldn't it be easier? And so when you ask people questions and make them think,
Yeah.
normally that you don't have to give them the answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, yes, I see what you're saying. Ty, you and I both know that, but there are some that, hey, you can't win everybody over,
No.
and that's okay. You can't win everybody over, and you and I have talked about when we talked about the project at the city of Memphis, how we met that resistance,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's just different ways that you have to handle that. And some folks, you have to make those hard decisions, right?
Yeah.
You don't want them uh to 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 bring down everybody else.
Yeah.
And so as you and I worked together to mitigate a lot of those issues, right? Because
Yeah.
we saw the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so sometimes you can't always get people to do, but for the most part, Ty, I think, especially with us working together, with that large time and attendance implementation, we both had a genuine outlook.
Mm-hmm.
And we were patient,
Mm-hmm.
um, and understanding, and then flexible. It's like, I know you probably implemented or did some things or suggested some things that you never probably done with the customer before,
Right.
right? But knowing your audience, which is one of the so communication, documentation, knowing where you are and knowing your audience.
Yeah.
That fourth thing is what I learned too. When you know your audience, right, you
Oh,
can
yeah.
adapt to it.
Mm-hmm.
You become that a leader, and uh, at the end of the day, you're successful,
Yeah.
and you can mitigate those risks easier
Yeah.
when you know your audience.
Yeah. I love it. So as we look at project management and consulting and things like that, where do you see the industry going? I know you love AI, and I know there are lots of people that are scared of AI, but we understand that it's machine learning and it's been in our environment for a very long time. But where do you see
Hmm.
our industry going, our industries, I would say, going?
Well, yeah, AI is a big deal, and,
Mm-hmm.
and, and the ultimate goal, right, is for these machines to be able to do what humans can,
Yeah.
you know, um, be able to take some of the risk, um, and then allow more efficiency, you
Hmm.
know, in development and coding and things of that sort. So, like you said, I like it, right? I love it.
Hmm.
I've embraced it. I think the challenge too, especially we were introducing it at the city before I left,
Hmm.
was just the security around it and what you how you allow people to use it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think what's most helpful, Ty, because I am a real continuous improvement business process improvement person,
Hmm.
and that is a hard journey for some people
Right.
to really dig into every single thing that you do to operate, document and change it or update it or whatever you need to do. So if John Smith left and decided won $1 million and decided not to come back, can Susie Q pick it up, right?
Right.
And so I went through that at the city because it was important. It was important, you know, when you are supporting a city and the mayor and the executives or the guy that's out servicing at a community center. They all need to work. They need to be able to use their talents.
Yes.
So um, 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 I don't know where I was going with it. We're talking about AI, right? I'm being honest. I'm being genuine right now. We're talking about AI. Okay, so let me get back to this business process improvement.
Edit that part out.
That's why I was going with it. So for me, you know, Chat GPT, right?
Uh-huh.
So for me and for companies and governments to improve Ty,
Uh-huh.
I think using AI to just give you a start,
Hmm.
right? Just to, if you have an idea, for me, AI is okay. I want to do this. I need to start it, but I don't know the first sentence. You know what I
Right.
mean? I don't
Yes.
know how to put it together.
Yeah.
That is what I love about AI, right? It makes it easier to improve, to be more efficient as it relates to documentation, which is something that people hate to do,
Yeah.
but is one of the again the number two, one of the number two things that's important is documentation.
Okay. I love it. So I never even thought about using AI for like requirements gathering and documentation and all that kind of stuff. See, you opening my mind up right now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is difficult for me to to work without SOPs. And it's difficult not for me to work, but it's difficult to manage people when you don't have processes in place.
Yes.
And you will find that and over my career span that some will invest in time.
Yeah.
They do not invest in documentation and workflows and those types of things are I'm gonna say use the word infrastructure. I mean you need
Yes.
that infrastructure
Yes.
because you always want business to continue. You
Yes.
always want business to continue.
Right.
And it may be because I was, I'm in IT, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was the CIO, ops manager, and all these things, it was my responsibility to make sure things worked.
Yeah.
And I couldn't say, well, John won $1 million and I don't have anybody who can do
Right.
it, right? I need
Right.
somebody to pick it up. So
Right.
that is my AI for me really helps as it relates to improving business process.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing new under the sun, Todd. There's
Right.
nothing new under the sun. It's just
Right.
about putting it together to make it work for whatever business that you're in.
Right. And I mean, and just thinking back to what we did when we do automate these processes and build these systems around it, there's really no way that we can't not develop new processes and document those processes
Mm-hmm.
and build the workflows and things like that because people would be lost because it's all new. Or either they would if they don't, they will begin to like circumvent the system that we just put in, that you spent
Mhm.
$50 million for, which, you know, however that goes. So I definitely agree. All right. So, Wendy, let's talk about IT, like being a woman in IT, right? No, it's hard sometimes. So, what
Mhm.
challenges have you had? And then on the other side of those challenges, how have you made it through? I know this is not a question that we definitely talked about, but I just want to know.
Well, you know what, Ty? What's funny is that when I started out in IT, I
Uh-huh.
worked for at First Horizon. I was an executive admin for the VP of Shared Delivery Services in IT. It was my first introduction in IT, right? And it was men, all
Yes.
down the wall. There were a few women, but they certainly weren't in those positions.
Right.
So I was first introduced working for a man in IT. When I transitioned, that was in my younger days, right? Project management. My mentor, who was the director of the project management office, he was a guy,
Mm.
right? The company that I worked for, Dale Freeman, Zycron, he was a guy. And so I was around a lot of men,
Yep.
and I learned a lot of what I know from watching them. Um, so that may have something to do with it. And honestly, I come from working parents, right? My
Mm-hmm.
mom didn't play. She was serious about work. She was serious about the work that she delivered. My project had to. I couldn't just do what the outline said. I had to go with the worksheet
Yes.
paper pink and purple, and I had to go to Hobby Lobby and add to it. Okay, so I come from a disciplined a family where I had a good work ethic,
Yeah.
right? But and so I had confidence, but
Mm.
not always. I had to learn that,
Okay.
and part of that is you know even though I did, even when I became the project management director or just became a PM, I still had to learn from others.
Yeah.
I had to sit at the table around people and not say anything.
Mm.
You can't. Another, let's see, number five maybe on our things is on our list is you learn not to talk just to be talking. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when you are a part of a team and you're contributing, um, that's exactly what you need to be doing. Is you need
Mm-hmm.
to contribute. And
Mm-hmm.
so there were times where I didn't talk because I may not have been an expert on it, but I'm listening and I'm
Taking
learning.
it in.
So taking in how these people communicate, how
Yes.
how the winners win and how the losers,
Oh.
and then how the ones that you know how do they deal with issues as they go along.
Mm-hmm.
So observing is very important,
Oh.
and not being humble, right? So understanding that I had a lot to learn
Mm-hmm.
from women,
Right.
and so time you spend that time, no matter how long it is, learning from others. And so I pulled. There wasn't one person that I just patterned myself out after. I pulled things from different people that worked
Okay.
and combined it into what worked for me.
Oh, I like that.
And so once I did that, then you know how you know what you know,
Mm-hmm.
you know what you know.
Right.
So I can sit at the table because I know, and it takes and it takes experience and those lessons learned that we're talking about
Yeah.
today, and that's why I can sit at a table with just men,
Mm.
or with only a few women or other leaders, um, and be confident in what I know is because I took the time um, to learn, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what most people struggle with. They think they know everything, but
Yeah.
you don't. You,
Yeah.
you got you got you got to take the time to learn.
Oh, passive listening. Oh my goodness, that's a great lesson learned. And then now you have like this specially blended leadership style where you can go out and you transform in organizations and projects, and it's just beautiful. So that's a you dropped it right there. That's all she wrote for the night.
Yeah, people sometimes take quietness for weakness,
Yeah,
or but if what I'm saying is not going to contribute to the conversation,
yeah.
or be thoughtful, or have somebody think, why would I speak,
Mm,
right? And as a project manager, you know, a good project manager is a task master. So if I'm a taskmaster, I don't have time to talk about things that don't mean anything.
right.
Everything means something.
Uh-huh.
And so it's okay to be quiet, but you're a quiet storm at the end if you take that time to just um, absorb from people, to develop, who you will become or who you are.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. We want to go into a whole another conversation,
I
but
know, right?
we're gonna probably end right here because we're gonna have you back again because we
Okay,
have some other stuff to
okay,
talk about, and we're gonna have you
okay.
in studio anyway. So because we have some other stuff to talk about. So we are
Yeah,
gonna roll
yeah.
out of here for this evening, and I appreciate your time, Wendy. Tell everybody how they can reach you, how they can get in touch with you on social media.
Okay. LinkedIn, just Wendy Harris. I'm on LinkedIn. Just type that in, and you can try Instagram, but I don't. It's too much work. So LinkedIn is where to hit me up at.
All right, we'll find you on LinkedIn,
I'm
Wendy
always
Harris.
I'm, I'm always on LinkedIn every day.
Yes,
So please just hit me up there. So
yes,
Ty, I appreciate it. I love you and what you're doing. Um, and I look forward to great things for you, and with you. And
yes.
I certainly will be back. Well, I'll be in studio next time with you.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you, Wendy, for joining us. And you all can follow us on LinkedIn at Her PM. Same thing on YouTube. Lessons learned from a pimp, right? And remember, right? Embrace your lessons learned. Embrace every one of them because they are building blocks for our success.